Okay, so now we're going to talk about the brain. When we look at the brain, we have the different parts, the different lobes. We have our frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and our temporal lobe. The hemispheres of our cerebrum are divided by what we call the longitudinal fissure. And we also see the central sulcus, which is this dividing line between the parietal and frontal lobes there and coming down here. The gyri, of course, are the bumps on the brain, and then the sulci are the valleys that we see as well. If we look posteriorly, we can see the cerebellum attached to the brainstem here. On the inferior view, from this view here, we can see the olfactory bulbs leading into the olfactory tract. We have the optic chiasm, which is where the optic tract and optic nerves cross over. Hanging here we have the pituitary gland. It's connected to the hypothalamus from this infundibulum, the little stalk right here. If we look deep, we can see inside here these two, what are we call the mammillary bodies. And then this is our pons, this is the medulla, and it leads down into the spinal cord. The cerebellum is on either side of the pons and medulla, and actually the midbrain up here. If we look posteriorly, we may be able to see, if we pull that down, I'm going to actually just take the cerebellum off, we can see deep inside here the pineal glands that will show on the lateral view as well. We see the midbrain here with the colliculi, the superior and inferior colliculi, part of that tactile plate. And this is also showing us the fourth ventricle, the roof of the fourth ventricle right here, the cerebral aqueduct leading down to it, like that. If we view the lateral view of our brain here, let's put the cerebellum back on there so we have it. We can see this is our corpus callosum. Going here, there is a thin layer of tissue on top of the lateral ventricle known as the septum pellucidum, and then we have the fornix, which is this layer here on top of our thalamus. This is our thalamus. The pin right here is coming out of what we call the interthalamic adhesion. The blue and red here, this is our choroid plexus of the third ventricle. The epithalamus sits above the thalamus, and that's this orange layer here and leads into that pineal gland that we just saw a few moments ago. The hypothalamus is this area here, kind of pulls down in that delta type shape. This is part of the optic chiasm, and if we look here, we can see coming off of that hypothalamus is that infundibulum again and our pituitary gland. Optic chiasm, infundibulum, pituitary gland. We also see our mammillary body right there, and we see the mammillary body right there. This is the midbrain, and part of the midbrain, once again, is the tactile plate where we have our superior and inferior colliculi. They are the two swellings that we see over here, and those are part of our reflexes, the auditory and visual reflexes. The pons we have right here, which is this larger portion of the brainstem, and then the medulla oblongata. Our cerebellum, we can see this is our cerebral aqueduct, and then the fourth ventricle takes up the space between the pons and our cerebellum. And in our cerebellum we have this nice network of white matter here, referred to as the arbor vitae, or tree of life. So that's what we see here on our cerebellum.